Although this is a non-spoiler review of Queen of Shadows, please be advised that this episode contains spoilers for the Throne of Glass series up to and including Heir of Fire.
Hi, and thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Jacqueline.
And I'm your host, Nicole, and you're listening to the first season of Perfictionist. Celaena Sardathian has embraced her identity as Aelin Galathynius, Queen of Terrasen. But before she can reclaim her throne, she must fight. She will fight for her cousin, a warrior prepared to die for her. She will fight for her friend, a young man trapped in an unspeakable prison. She will fight for her people, enslaved to a brutal king and awaiting their lost queen's triumphant return. Everyone Aelin loves has been taken from her. Everything she holds dear is in danger. But she has the heart of a queen, and that heart beats for vengeance.
So today we're talking about the fourth official book in the Throne of Glass series called Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas or Maas. I actually came across the pronunciation as Maas rather than Maas, so I've been saying it wrong.
Oh, it's Maas? Like almost like it has a Z at the end?
Well, that's how my audiobook person said. It was like Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas, and I was like, uh-oh, I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
Oh no. Us and pronunciations.
I know. We're trying.
I'm sure that no one's deeply offended.
Yeah. I was wondering how you felt about the title of this novel.
I like the title of the novel. I think it fits with it. I think she's starting, Celaena, the main character, is starting to come into her own in this novel. So Queen of Shadows, it just has that kind of impact to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's fitting for the events that take place in this book.
For sure. I think it's extremely fitting. When I was reading the book, I thought, oh, this is a good name for this book.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe the reason, I don't know if it is, but I wonder if this was the reason she changed the first novel, because it was supposed to be called Queen of Glass or something instead of Throne of Glass. It was supposed to be called Queen of something. Yeah. So I wonder if she thought of this name for this book in her kind of planning of the world and then decided to change the name of the first book.
Yeah, I wonder.
So that she could use Queen in this book.
All of the titles that they've landed on for this series, I found are perfect for the books. So, yeah, it would be interesting to know the thoughts, especially regarding the fact that they did change the original name of it.
Mm-hmm. I've been wondering about titles in general. I'm noticing, because now that we've been doing this, a lot of book recommendations are popping up on my social media feeds. And everything is something of something. Yes. That seems to be like most titles are something of something. But where did that come from?
I think knowing it can be really difficult to name a novel. And indeed, when you Google it, it does suggest that format. So,
okay.
and it's obviously done really well with this, right? And same with like A Court of Thorns and Roses, right? Yeah. So like there's a lot of books that are something of something.
It's definitely a thing. Somebody I think discovered a formula.
Yeah, I think it's sort of trendy, honestly. I think that this is a trend that may ebb in the future. I could be wrong, but it wasn't like that so much before. So I do think.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just like, this is weird. Why is everything named this way? But
yeah. So in this story, there's interactions between two characters who used to be together and in fact in love.
Yes.
Obviously, if you've gotten to this point, I think you might be a little bit odd if you're just randomly reading Queen of Shadows without reading the books that come before it. So I think it sort of goes without, well, I'm going to say it anyways. Obviously, there's spoilers. to the books that are previous to this in the Throne of Glass series.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we know at this point that Kale and Aelin, aka Selena Sardothian,
Mm-hmm.
they were lovers. Obviously no longer they're not together anymore. So
No, not in the way they were.
not the way that they were. What did you think of the dynamic between the two, considering the fact that they're kind of exes, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
And did you think it was done well?
I think so. I feel as though it would be very difficult to work with your ex. And essentially that's what's happening here is two people who used to be in a relationship are now having to work together. They have a common goal, but they also have this history that they're battling, some emotions that they're kind of dealing with. And they're not happy about it. There's a lot of tension there. And I think that is realistic. I don't think
Yeah.
it would be easy. And I think if they were working together as if nothing had happened and as if they were not in a relationship previously, that would be weird. I like that Sarah put that in, like the conflict there. She didn't just let it go. And that seems to be a thread that we've talked about is she doesn't let things go. If something happens in a story, she has the characters react to that for
Hmm.
a reasonable amount of time.
Hmm.
It's not like, oh, we were dating, now we're not, now I'm dating this person.
Hmm.
And, it's, we sit with things like you would in real
Yeah.
life. You don't get over heartbreak,
Yeah.
the type of love that they had
Yeah.
in a flash.
No, and I think that's something else that makes her worlds so immersive and why it's so easy to get lost in these worlds because it does seem sort of realistic and believable.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I thought that their relationship, because it's really complicated the way that it ended, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the whole Nehemia thing, essentially. But then they kind of came to an uneasy sort of forgiveness slash truth between them. And then it was sort of unknown, like, are they still together? Are they not
Yeah.
together? Right? And then he had her sent away for her safety because he loves her or loved
Mm-hmm.
her. It was kind of a weird ending for their relationship because it was kind
Mm-hmm.
of, in my opinion, like, well, okay, so she's gone to Wendlin, but are they still together? Are they not together?
Yeah. And I
And,
think
but,
that is something that they're still figuring out throughout this book
mhm.
as well.
And then when she is away, that is when he finds out her true birthright. So
Mm-hmm.
that also changes his whole view of her.
Yeah. So stepping into this novel, it's kind of unclear of where their relationship stands, but I think that it's handled very well throughout this novel. And as you read it, you kind of get to see both their perspectives, which is awesome, and how it grows and changes throughout the book.
Yes, absolutely.
There are two very specific moments in this book that had me intrigued, and it has to do with scent. Sarah describes the way specific characters smell. It kind of got me on this train of thought of like, does this have meaning? Because everything seems to have meaning. And we're not going to delve into which characters and what sense and all that in this episode, but in our heavy spoilers, we will, because if my theories are correct, then I'm thinking it gives clues. So we obviously don't want to spoil anything. Do you think that sense are significant, or do you think my theories are kind of wackadoodle when it comes to their sense?
Absolutely, their scents are significant. Absolutely. Yeah. I can't say too much more about that because I'll spoil stuff, but yes, it is not there as a just a random lovely description.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if you are interested in learning more about our thoughts on the sense, then you should check out the heavy spoilers episode next time because we will dive much deeper into this because I find it fascinating.
Yes, it is fascinating. I love it. So, in Queen of Shadows, there are some themes of revenge.
Mhm.
Did you think the timing of the revenge was good, or revenges was good? Or
Mhm.
did you feel like it came kind of late in the story? Or did you feel like it was placed very appropriately?
There's one specific revenge plot that I have been waiting for. And I think this almost brings back the question of, did you read, and like this won't make sense at first, but I think once you've read all the books, this will make sense. But I think it brings up the question of, when do you read Assassin's Blade? Because the revenge that is taking place is linked to Assassin's Blade. And if you read Assassin's Blade first, before, like as an actual prequel, before you started the series, then you're waiting a long time for this revenge. But if you read Assassin's Blade in the romantic order, then you would have just read it before Queen
Mm-hmm.
of Shadows.
Yeah.
So you're reading what happened, and then you're reading Queen of Shadows, which has the revenge plot within it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that having Assassin's Blade at the beginning for this, if you're a patient person, is better, because the events that take place really, really wreck Selena. And I think she needs that time to process what happened,
Yeah.
because it was like super deep, the wound that she got. And I think she needed that time. And I think it's, again, that realism of having her sit with that as a reader, sitting with her through those emotions, and then finally getting that revenge at the end. So
Yes.
I think if you're not a very patient person, then it probably felt like a really long time if you read it in the purest order. But if you are a patient person and are willing to wait for it, I think that it makes more sense and it's more realistic.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. I the sense of justice within myself wanted the revenge to be immediately and
Mm-hmm.
devastating and probably even worse than what was done to create those feelings of wanting revenge.
Yeah.
It was like, let the world burn.
Which
But
can be her style sometimes.
yeah, exactly, right? The way that it was done, when you think of Aelin or Selena's character and how thoughtful and careful and cunning she is, it makes complete
Mm-hmm.
sense that the revenge was where it was in the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was very well done.
Yes, me too.
So, when it comes to the overall story, what do you think was the message that Sarah was trying to get across to readers? What do you think she wanted readers to kind of take away from this particular novel outside of the series as a whole?
I think that it's hard to know exactly what the author wants you to take away, but in this particular novel, I did there's some really, I think, overarching themes of kindness and friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's kind of a large part of the theme of this novel.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I think friendship really is strong in this one. We discussed in one of our previous episodes how we thought the threat of friendship was going to become bigger. And I think we're starting to see how important friendship is in the overall series.
Hmm.
But it's very well pinpointed in this, the blooming of it.
Yes, I actually love it, and I think that it's just fantastic how it builds, and how unlikely some friendships may seem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit shocking at first, but
Yeah.
oh, so heartwarming.
Yes. What did you think of the pacing of Queen of Shadows? Did you feel like it was quite fast? Did you feel like it dragged?
I got through this book very quickly. I really, really enjoyed this novel. I think it was probably the fastest one I read out of, like, well, it's bigger, so it's hard to say because it's a larger book. So it might have taken me the same amount of time, but it took me the same amount of time to read more pages, if that makes sense. Because I
Yeah.
was just very much more enthralled. A lot of action in this
Hmm.
one, I found, anyways, that it
Hmm.
was kind of more high. For me, it was like higher pace, like more adrenaline, more action. Just my heart was going a little bit faster in this one.
Yeah, it's an intense novel for
Mm.
sure.
There was one point in this book that I actually had to put the book down. I don't know if I would use the word surprise, but I was just very emotionally impacted by what had happened. Were there any points in this book that you found, or any plot twists that you found really surprising or just like huge for you?
There was one particular detail in one of the plots, I can't mention it here, that
Mhm.
did surprise me, and I think added to the depth of our main character a little
Mhm.
bit, which we will discuss in more detail in our next episode for sure.
Yeah.
There was a couple things that surprised me, but that one thing in particular I thought was a bit of a twist.
Well, I actually have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm very, very curious. So I am looking forward to our next episode so we can delve into that.
Okay.
But it was an amazing book overall. I think at this point, it was my favorite book. I loved all of the action in it. I
Mhm.
love all we got introduced, or not necessarily introduced to new characters, but I think we get to see depth of characters we haven't seen depth in before.
Mhm.
And overall, just an absolutely fantastic book, in my opinion. Definitely my favorite in the series up until this point.
Yeah, it's really starting to pick up, and getting to read them is it's starting to just pick up in pace for reading as
Mm-hmm.
well as the story at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. Well, I think that's everything for our non spoiler review. But if you are curious to hear what we have to say about this novel in more detail with all the spoilers, then please check out our next episode.
Other than that, we hope to see you there. Bye bye for now.
Bye.